Conversation forward with Reza Amanat, the Deputy Editor of Crude Oil Markets at Argus. Thanks for joining us here. What is your sense? Are you also picking up that Saudi Arabia and Russia, for now, at least publicly, say they are okay with raising output?
Yeah, I think that's the case. At least their position seems to be that they think that some additional production can come back into the market. But the interesting thing here is that they could be, taking up that position for different reasons. It's interesting that Saudi Arabia is calling for increased production. We don't really know if Saudi Arabia is taking up that position within OPEC because of their own domestic interest or because they're actually pursuing the interest of the U.S. We know that they're close allies, and we know that Mr. Trump has been trying to put pressure on the Saudis and on OPEC in general to increase production because the latest price moves upwards obviously mean higher fuel prices in the U.S. Russia, on its part, clearly is under pressure from domestic producers to allow new fields to come online and increase production because of that. And they also worry about prices getting to a stage where U.S. shale will increase production and come to compete with their crude and with other OPEC producers especially in Asia. So they're adopting the same position, but I think from different reasons and different points of view.
Okay, so Reza, but it doesn't. What they're saying publicly now, the problem I have with those public statements is it doesn't fit in with their stated position. For example, Saudi Arabia has said its ambition is to have a price of $80. Why is a producer going to be okay with increasing production when the demand still exists?
Yeah, I think that's correct, and that's why I was saying before it's not clear whether the Saudis are adopting that position within OPEC because of their own domestic interest, or is it because of the interest of the U.S. and the pressure that the U.S. is bringing to bear on Saudi Arabia? It seems counterintuitive for Saudi to be, on the one hand, as you say, sending out messages saying that crude prices of 80, 85 is where they want the prices to be, and then on the other hand, asking for more production to come onto the market before the prices have reached that level. And as your colleague mentioned earlier, they really do need higher oil prices in order to carry out some of the reform plans in their economy, and also to make sure that the Saudi Aramco IPO is a success. Obviously, the higher the oil price, the higher the valuation of Saudi Aramco. So it seems counterintuitive for them to be asking for more production and getting nervous about prices when they haven't reached the level that they want it to be. So you could read into it and say, well, they're not really pursuing their own domestic interest. They're actually pursuing U.S. interests because they can't say no to Mr. Trump, basically.
Right. But when we talk about OPEC meets, or any such big event that happens in Vienna, markets mainly factors in what's going to happen, and the reaction will be a pre-reaction. So recently we've seen crude oil, going down, which means markets are factoring in that supply will go up.
Yeah, that's right. I think before every OPEC meeting, there's enough messaging coming from each oil minister and each camp, and you do get a sense of what's going to basically happen. The thing that right now is up for debate between the OPEC members and the non-OPEC members is how any sort of increase will be formulated. I think we can be sure that in the end, they can come up to an agreement where production is increased. But the two camps within the producer group, both OPEC and non-OPEC, the difference between them is, how much production comes and how that production is shared out, basically. So what the Russians have asked for is 1.5 million barrels of increased production, and that's something that countries like Iran and Venezuela are not agreeing with. But you've got to remember that OPEC and the non-OPEC producers have been over-complying with their own deal. So they were supposed to remove 1.8 million barrels of crude from the market, but they've been over-complying. So their compliance has been not 100%, but 150%. So you could envisage a situation where there is an agreement between everyone that the quota, the 1.8 million cut, is not touched. So that's not changed. So the deal remains intact, but the over-compliance is reduced and compliance is brought down to close to 100%, which would then add production into the market without having to change the deal. And I can only imagine that, an agreement could come from such a deal. I can't imagine that, especially the camp that opposes an increase in production or a change to the deal, would agree to an outright increase of 1.5 million barrels a day.
All right. Thank you so much, Reza, for taking our time. For us, always good to get some perspective from you. We have been speaking